Welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast with Wyatt Spalding and Jake Burnside. Today we have the voice of Husker football, Greg Sharpe, with us. How are we doing, Greg?
Guys, I'm doing really well. Looking forward to the finish of this football season. And as you guys both know, since you grew up in this state, there's never a dull moment around Husker football.
Right. For sure. Off week or whatever, it feels like that's all the buzz, especially right now going on with everything.
And who's going to be the new coach?
Right.
Will it be Mickey Joesph? Will Trev Alberts go a different direction? I mean, there are so many questions that are up in the air as we get ready to round the bend of this season.
Yeah, I feel like you talk with someone different from the media or your friends, you're just going to get a different opinion from everyone else, and no one really knows.
You know, I'm really proud of Mickey Joesph, though, guys. I didn't know how he would handle this, and he has been a real pro at this. I think he has a shot at getting the job permanently, and I think, you know, if he can rack up a couple of more wins down the stretch, but I've just been so impressed with the way he has gone about integrating the new coaches on the staff and then really becoming a great leader for these players on this football team. So I'm just very, very encouraged with what I've seen from Mickey in the last month.
Yeah, and you had more of an inside view than us, and from the outside kind of looking, it's been pretty cool just to hear the buzz around the team. So that's been awesome.
He's really a remarkable guy. I didn't know Mickey very well at all until he got this job, and now we've spent quite a bit of time together doing his radio shows and his TV shows. But I'm impressed just watching him work a room, watching him be around players and other coaches, and even like the equipment guys or some of the support staff people, how he treats them. It's just really impressive.
Yeah, so have you, since he's become the new interim coach, have you been an opportunity, obviously, to interview him more one-on-one? He comes for the weekly show. Before that, you just kind of had Scott, right, coming in?
Well, and I do a series of reports with all the coaches during the off season. So I've interviewed Mickey a couple different times before he got this position a month ago. And so I knew him and we talked and had some good conversations, but not nearly as intensive as the last month has been, because we'll sit down and do his pregame interviews every week. And then obviously post-game show and his TV show. So I spend a lot of time around these head coaches once the season gets going. I did see Mickey a couple times once he got the job in June, but not nearly as much as I have the last month.
Oh yeah, but he's probably pretty busy, obviously, with everything.
It's interesting. He made the comment to me a week or so ago. He goes, "It's kind of lonely." He said,
really?
as a position coach, you're always with your players. You're in those little small rooms with 7, 8, 9, 10 players. How many guys are in with him? With wide receivers, probably is closer to 15. But he goes, with the head coach, you don't go. He goes, I'll just go wander into a meeting, and the coaches look up, hey, coach, you need something? He goes, no, I'm just lonely sitting in my office by myself. So I think he kind of misses being a position coach and just hanging out with, you know, a certain subset of the team a little bit.
Oh man, yeah, I could see that. I mean, you kind of just like managing all the other position coaches and see what they do. So when announcing Nebraska football, what got you into wanting to be an announcer? Like, did you grow up and those are just some great announcers on the radio or TV? Who did you really look up to as a kid?
Guys, I was lucky because at about the age of 7 or 8, I knew I wanted to be a sportscaster. Don't know why. Didn't have anybody in my family that was a broadcaster or a journalist, but I love sports. But I also knew I wasn't going to be good enough to be a college athlete or a pro athlete. So the next best thing to me was I was just fascinated by guys who talked about it. And so I would sit around on a Saturday afternoon as an 8, 9-year-old, and I would just flip the radio back and forth between certain games, and I'd have the games on the TV, and I even did my own scoreboard show when I was a young guy. So all throughout high school, I took whatever I could to become a better journalist, whether it was writing a piece for the local newspaper about my high school team's cross-country meet that day or something. And then I got to college, and I did go to K-State. I know we're going to talk about that later on, but I went to K-State and got involved with the student radio station there, where I had a chance to do some play-by-play. And I've just been very fortunate to be around really good people growing up. As far as people that influenced me, a name that you both will probably know is Kevin Harlan, who's a great broadcaster at CBS and also TNT, does NBA and NFL work. I interned one summer in Kansas City at a TV station, and Kevin 3 or 4 times that summer would come in and anchor the sportscast. And so I put together a sportscast. So I got to know Kevin pretty well. And he's given me a lot of advice down through the years about how to handle certain things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you growing up in Kansas, did you grow up a huge K-State fan? Did you know you were going to go to K-State? Was that kind of where your mind was set?
I did not. My mom went to school at Nebraska.
Oh,
My dad was a Jayhawk. And so I kid people and I say, when you mix the colors, red and blue, you get purple. But my older brother went to K-State, and I would go up and visit him, and I really liked it. And all my buddies, because I grew up in the Kansas City area, all my buddies were going to KU, and I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit and go somewhere different. My older brother was in Manhattan and liked it. So that's where I ended up going and had a great time at K-State. Obviously landed my first play-by-play gig at K-State doing their games for 6 years.
Wow.
Who at K-State really helped you along in your broadcasting career?
Well, another name you guys might be familiar with is Mitch Holthus, who now is the voice of the Chiefs and has been since 1994. When I was a student at K-State, Mitch hired me to be his spotter and statistician for football. So I got to know Mitch really well. And then when he took the Chiefs job full-time, I was lucky enough to be elevated to take his spot at K-State. So Mitch is another guy that's had a big influence on my career, and he's had a marvelous career in Kansas City as the voice of the Chiefs, and now has a Super Bowl ring because they won that Super Bowl a couple of years ago, beating the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I know that, so Lane Grindle worked with Husker Sports Network, went to the Brewers, correct?
He did.
Have you ever thought about looking at going professional, or just loving where you're at in Lincoln? Or
it's pretty hard to beat the Husker job. I mean, when I'm looking out over that stadium on a Saturday afternoon with 90,000 people and everybody wearing red and everybody in the state pulling for one thing, pretty hard to beat that. Just so proud of Lane, because Lane was with me on baseball broadcasts for about 5 years before he got the Brewers job, and just so happy for him. Major League Baseball jobs are really hard to get. And I'm so proud that he was been able to do that. Another guy that was kind of up here and working side by side with me for a while was Jeff Colhane. Jeff is now the play-by-play voice for the Florida State Seminoles. And so he's done really well after leaving Nebraska. So really proud of both of those guys. But no, I got to the point when I came up here 15 years ago to Nebraska, kind of felt like this probably would be my last stop. And I don't think that changes at all between now when I decide to put away the microphone.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you call baseball games too. And when you call a baseball game, is it a different pace? Because football is up and down, and baseball, it's like, it's slower, and sometimes it's like, are we ever going to get out of this inning?
Wyatt, it's one of the beautiful things about my job is how different calling football is from baseball, because you're exactly right. A lot of times in baseball, you have so much time to fill, and you have bad games where one team is way ahead or the other, or it's just a sloppy game. Nobody can throw strikes, innings take forever. So you got to become kind of a storyteller for baseball. So I love the energy and the excitement of football, where everybody's hanging on every word, to the contrast of baseball, where a lot of guys are laying on their couch taking a nap, or, they're mowing the yard, or they're cleaning their garage out and they're listening to us. And so the differences between the two sports, I love the creative differences that I have to have between a football and a baseball broadcast. Love them equally. I don't think I have a preference. But I love the challenge of how different those two sports are.
A little bit of different on the travel. So you travel with the football team and the baseball team, correct?
Yes.
So what is the difference? So it's you're staying 2 nights away. Husker football, you guys are flying back from wherever, Piscataway, college, wherever, right?
I'm around the baseball team a lot more than I am the football team, just because of what you said there. We'll go for a weekend series in baseball. We'll leave on Thursday. So you're there Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, you fly home on Sunday. Then you might have a Tuesday game where you're around them again on Tuesday. So you just get to know the baseball team and players a lot more than you do the football guys. And you're right on football. We fly out on a Friday afternoon. Last week, we had a night game in West Lafayette. We were back in Lincoln by 1:30 that night. In fact, we landed before our post-game call-in show was over. I got to hear the last 10 minutes of Matt Coatney doing the post-game call-in show. So that's how quick a football trip can be. As composed, and baseball doesn't get charter flights. They fly commercials. So you hang out in the airport, you wait for that commercial flight, and maybe it's a bus ride back to Lincoln after the game. So I'm around the baseball guys an awful lot.
How do you think the baseball team will do this year?
A lot of new faces, guys. I mean, Will Bolt did not like the way last season went, so he had a major roster overhaul. There's 25 new faces, and you only have a 40-man roster. So
Dang.
there are going to be a lot of new guys to learn between now and they start their season in February. They finished up their fall practices last week, and I think they're encouraged that they'll have a much better team than they did last year. And it certainly makes the baseball season a lot more fun when you're winning more than you're losing. In baseball, you're going to lose games. That's just the way that sport is.
Yeah.
But it's a long season. It's a grind when we start in February, and hopefully you're playing into June and you make the NCAA tournament, you're still going. So it's a long, long season of baseball. That's why winning makes it a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Is the Big Ten tournament in Omaha again next year?
It is. And it was embarrassing to not be there last year. You know, they only take the top 8. We didn't make it. We were 9th. And so we didn't get in. And so the crowds were bad because the Huskers weren't there to sell some tickets. And I know it was embarrassing for Will Bolt that his team didn't make the top 8 in the conference after winning the league the year before to not get in the top 8 last year. So that's why I think the major overhaul of the roster occurred during the summer months.
Yeah, because there was a lot of hype like coming in last year, like the year before. Weren't we like make the regionals or super regionals the year we won the conference?
We made the regionals down in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Arkansas was the number 1 team in the country. And we would have won a lot of regionals. We almost won that one. We pushed them to the final game. We beat them once, had the lead in the deciding game until about the 8th inning when they flipped it and beat us. So yeah, there was a lot of hype. We lost some really good players off of that team and just didn't bounce back last year very well.
Yeah.
Back to football. So growing up, I would always listen to Lane Grindle and you guys. And one thing I always wondered, and even listen with Matt Davison, what your guys' day was like. So let's say 11 a.m. game, you guys are rolling early, 6 o'clock game, you guys are going late in the evening. So maybe for you, what's a game day in Lincoln like?
Yeah, we used to, and when you were referencing Lane, those pregame shows were 5 hours long. A year ago, we cut it back to 4. I don't go on when it comes on. I go on 2 hours into the pregame show. So for an 11 a.m. game, I'll arrive at the stadium around 8 a.m. in the morning. I'll get here, kind of get set up, go down to our studio, which we talked about earlier, is in the stadium actually now. I love that we have a studio here at the football stadium. So I'll get to the stadium about 8, get set up in the press box, go down to the studio, and then I take the air at 9 o'clock and start pregame coverage there. And then, you know, the games take 3.5 hours long, so they'll end around 2:30 in the afternoon. Once the game ends, I head back down to the locker room area where I will talk to Coach Joesph with a one-on-one interview right then and there. Once I send that back to our guys in the studio, my day is over at that point in time. But then I come back in on Sundays because that's when we do the television show that everybody watches on either 10/11 out of Lincoln or Channel 7 out of Omaha. That airs Sunday night after the late news. And so I'm in here back in here on Sunday to tape the television show. That doesn't take us very long, but no days off once the football season starts. That's why you love these bye weeks, so I can actually have a Saturday to kick back, watch like everybody else, watch a lot of football games.
Yeah. So you're a Kansas State fan. How do you feel with like Martinez now? Went from Nebraska to Kansas State.
Yeah. It's weird. Yeah, it's really odd. I liked Adrian a lot, guys. I really do. He was a nice person, a good young man. I'm pulling for him. And it kind of helps that he's at my alma mater. I can pull for him and my alma mater at the same time. So I'm happy for him that he's having some success. He never got to a bowl game here in Nebraska. Well, they're going to go to a bowl game at K-State. They're having a great year, and he's doing some really good things. So I'm happy for his success. And he wanted it so bad to work here in Lincoln, probably wanted it too much. And that maybe caused some of the mistakes that he made, but really happy that he's having some success.
Well, he had a great game against Oklahoma. I mean, he had an amazing game. And I mean, even though we didn't play very well, I would say he was a big reason is last year we were in a lot of those games because he kept the plays alive. I mean,
last year was so frustrating, guys, because you're right. Nebraska was in every single game, but then there would be something strange, whether it was a punt to the wrong side of the field or a block punt like we had in the Iowa game, or Adrian fumbling against Michigan. It was something different every week. that caused that team not to win. And it was a good football team. And it's hard to say that when they go 3-9, but they were right there with everybody, but they found a way to lose every week. And, that's ultimately why Scott Frost is no longer the head coach here. He couldn't figure out how to flip the dynamic of turning those close losses into wins.
Yeah. Do you think, so the pulse of Husker Nation better than anybody, and Adrian Martinez leaving Nebraska, the hardcore love of football here in Nebraska, and going somewhere else to K-State, do you think that is maybe a reason why he is having some success, just leaving this stressful, hostile environment and succeeding at K-State?
Possibly. I think he needed to change. I think Husker Nation was ready for a different quarterback this year, right or wrong. I think both sides probably needed something different in their worlds. Also, I think, with Adrian, he goes down there. They've got a really good defense in Manhattan. So he doesn't have to go win the games by himself. He has an All-American running back and a kid named Deuce Vaughn that certainly helps him out as well. So I think there's some, and I'm not sure they're playing quite as hard a schedule as you play in the Big Ten Conference. So all of that mixed in together, I think is why he's having success.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like last year's schedule was way harder than this year's. Like, still hard this year, but I think we had one of the hardest schedules in the nation last year.
No question. It was so hard. I mean, you had Michigan on there who ended up being the college football playoff. Ohio State's really good. Michigan State went to a big bowl game last year. We had to play them.
Yeah.
I think the schedule last year was way harder than it was this year. And yet we were so close week after week after week. It was just heartbreaking to see this team go through those tough losses late.
Yeah, that's why it was nice to see us pull one out against Rutgers in a close game finally. It was good to see him come back.
It's been a while since we did that. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter how, people saying, oh, they didn't look good. Well, they won 2 close games, and Nebraska hasn't done that in over a year or longer. So it was nice just to see the wins.
Yeah, sure was. And, you feel the kids work hard. The coaches coach hard. I mean, so much effort put into it just to see the disappointment on their faces week after week. It was fun going to the locker room after that Rutgers win, because they had to rally late and win on the road. And that, as you mentioned, hasn't happened around here very much. So for them to be able to do that, I felt so happy for all those kids.
So are there any players that stuck out to you in your time in Nebraska that have really just made a huge impact on you, or just university, just as a player, as a person? So.
Oh, goodness. We've had a lot of good ones, right? And Ndamukong Suh would probably be at the top of the list. What an amazing player. I think he was the best player in the country that year. I know he didn't win the Heisman Trophy. He won a lot of other big awards for his 2009 season. Dabo Swinney, who we all know, great coach at Clemson. At the end of the 2008 season, Nebraska played Clemson, and Dabo was just named their head coach in the Gator Bowl. And Ndamukong had a huge game. And Dabo tells the story that Ndamukong's creating havoc and sacking guys in the backfield and tackling running backs before they get to the line of scrimmage. And the offensive line comes off, and Dabo's going, "Come on, guys." And one of them told Dabo, he goes, "Coach, it didn't happen today." He's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, we can't block that guy. He's too much for us. Dabo's like, "Yeah, he is pretty good." So Ndamukong would be at the top of that. Levante David was a special player. Rex Burkhead, Amir Abdullah, really good players for the Huskers. So we've had a lot of them in my time here, and some great kickers too. Love some of the kickers we've had, and Alex Henry and Brett Maher, who is still kicking for the Cowboys in the NFL. So we've had a lot of great players. We need more of them, right? We need more of them to start winning more games, but we've had a lot of good ones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why it was frustrating last year. We struggled in the kicking game. It's that's what we're known for. It's kickers. So
we'd have had the kickers from this team last year, it might have been worth 2 or 3 more wins.
We actually probably might have beat, a lot of games, but I remember the Oklahoma game was 2 or 3 field goals, and we, I think, win by 1 point maybe, but dang.
Yep.
The way we're blocking, 2 block punts? 3?
3, yeah. Dang.
So.
That's awesome. You don't see many block punts in college football today at all. It's way hard to block.
And we've had 3 with 5 games to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get another one before the year's over.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Do you think that if we would make a bowl game, or even let's say we go 4 or 5 wins, but we beat like Iowa. Do you think that would give Mickey Joesph a really good chance of getting the job next season?
Now, I'm not Trev Alberts.
Yeah.
That's ultimately his call. I do think with every win Mickey gets, he strengthens his case. I think, he opens more eyes with every time we walk off the field with a victory. We have 5 games left, and so he has a chance to add some more to the tally. I think, he's helping his case with every win that he has. But again, I'm not Trev Alberts. I'm not in his head. I don't know where he's thinking, what he's thinking. I think he's doing a great job in supporting Mickey and helping Mickey any way he can right now because he wants Mickey to have success. They were teammates for just a year when Trev was a little bit younger than Mickey, but I think Trev wants Mickey to enjoy some success here and help his career out as well. But like I'll say, every time we win, it helps Mickey's case out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think talking with people just around fan base, everyone's pulling for Mickey. And what I'm thinking is, and you might not really know either, but what is Trev fully doing right now? Is he just calling other coaches and getting their insights? There was speculation he met with Urban Meyer and they were just talking. So what is Trev doing right now in the search process?
He's been pretty quiet about it. And they have hired a firm to help go collect some information and data. My guess is, Jake, that he's doing exactly what you said. I'm sure he's making phone calls and talking to people around college football who study coaches and analyze coaches and asking people, do you think Coach X might be a good fit here, or Coach Y, would he be a good fit here? So I'm sure he's doing a lot of that as the season unfolds. But also, we're not going to hire anybody until the season's over. So we're still 5-6 weeks away from that happening. And so, he's gathering all these things, and somebody who might have been high on his list a month ago, their team might be struggling right now. He's like, okay, well, that guy's not going to be on my list now. So I'm sure it changes from week to week.
Yeah. And you think sometimes people think about too much, like next season, who's going to be our coach? Like, what about this season? Like, it's not over. Now. So we still got a shot.
That's exactly right. And I think that's what Trev's trying to keep the focus on, these players that are here now, these coaches that are here now. And that's what I tell Husker fans. Support this team right now. We can worry about 2023 and beyond after we finish off this year. So let's root for these guys week in and week out. Let's pull for Mickey Joesph week in and week out and see what happens in December.
Yeah, I would think the team captains probably on this team has been doing a pretty good job, with having to coach get fired. He probably recruited most of these guys. Then we got to go play Oklahoma. We don't do very good in that game, but then we get 2 wins off the bat. That's good. So, these players, they've really learned a lot about adversity this year and past years too.
And Wyatt, they're all pulling together. You can tell that this team is still a team. They've not fractured. They've hung together. And I think that does go to the leaders on the team, the captains who've done a really good job going, guys, put blinders on. Don't see what's going on out here. Don't listen to what the fans are talking about. Let's just focus on our work and getting ready, in this case now, for Illinois, the next game.
Yeah. So do you sense there's a good leaders within the locker room? Is that kind of why things are kind of staying seems pretty well?
100%. I do. I think if there wasn't good leadership, I don't think we would have won a game after the dismissal of Scott Frost.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be hanging in these games. I think even last Saturday night, Purdue's moving the ball up and down the field. We could have easily folded and gotten beat by 3-4 touchdowns. And yet there we were, one stop away from getting the ball back, chance to go win the game. So I think the leaders in the locker room have done a great job.
Yeah, the Illinois next week, that will be tough. They have really good running back, but hopefully we can, contain the running back. And what are your thoughts on the Illinois game?
Yeah, they've done a great job, haven't they? Their coach, it's his second year there. They got a real chance to win the division. They play great defense. In fact, that's going to be the theme over the last 5 games. We're playing teams that all play really good defense. So it's going to be hard to score these last 5 games. Chase Brown's a terrific running back for them. They got a transfer portal quarterback from Syracuse named DeVito. He's been pretty solid for them as well, but they hang their hat on playing great defense and being able to run the football. Those will be the 2 things we'll see a lot of next week.
Is there a schedule or a game where you think like, oh, this team might be tough? Like, I mean, they're all tough to beat, but like we maybe should win the game, or it's going to be a hard win, but we can maybe pull it out?
Well, I think the toughest team we have left is Michigan. I think they're a really good football team. They're really good on both line of scrimmages, and they're on a mission. They got to the playoff last year. They want to get back and win a game in the playoff this year, and they want to keep beating Ohio State. So I think they're a tremendous football team, well balanced, can play great on both sides of the ball. So I think that's the best team we're going to see all season long is Michigan.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but Wisconsin seems like they're the same as us, gone through like the exact same thing.
Yep.
And Iowa can't score, kind of. So that's good for us. So I would, except Iowa's got a good defense, like they always do. So you think Iowa will be one of the toughest defenses we faced all year?
Yeah, like I think of the last 5 games, all 5 teams are in the top 30 in the country in total defense. So all 5 are really good. Iowa's terrific. Iowa's numbers may get bumped up a little bit when they play the Buckeyes this weekend. Ohio State can score on pretty much everybody, but yeah, their defense is good. Illinois' defense is good. Michigan's is good. Even Minnesota plays pretty sound defense.
Yeah, were you guys surprised that Minnesota lost to Purdue? They were kind of picked to win our side.
I was. I thought Minnesota, and then their running back got hurt going into that game and didn't play. That hurt them a lot to not have Ibrahim, their running back. But then they did get him back last week, and they go and get beat pretty good by Illinois. So it tells me Illinois is a really solid team.
Yeah.
What does Iowa do? So with their offense, does Kirk Ferentz fire his son? I mean, the Petrus has not been well either. So I don't know. What do you fire your son? Well, what's Christmas look like? What's Thanksgiving look like?
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, right? Yeah. And I think Iowa fans are kind of getting fed up with the way they look on offense, and they want Kirk to do something, but what's he going to do? And that is his kid calling the plays. They also have to be frustrated, guys. You look out at Purdue, and their top 2 wide receivers played at Iowa last year, transferred out, and now are having stellar years for the Boilermakers. And Iowa fans have to be going, wait a minute, why aren't those guys still in Iowa City helping us right now? So, yeah, there's some unhappy fans, I think, over in Iowa City right now.
Yeah. Definitely.
Greg, you've been to a lot of different places, not just in the Big 10, Big 12, traveling, bowl games. What is the coolest environment you've been in?
I would say Texas A&M. It's probably my favorite place that I've called a game from. Just great fans, loud. They chant together. They have what they call a yell practice on Friday nights before home football games, and they do it at midnight. And I went to it one time, and I thought this is going to be out of control. But all those kids were well behaved. They were there to learn the chants and all the things. That was a really cool place to call a game and watch a game, was Texas A&M.
Oh, wow. I had no idea they did that practice before the game.
Look it up, Google it. It's called yell practice. They do it on Friday nights before home football games, and they have a real military bent to their school. And so those guys get out front, and they're very, like I said, very disciplined with what they do, and they're loud. They can make a lot of noise at their games.
What about baseball? What would you say is the coolest baseball?
Well, probably I'd go back to that regional that we played in at Arkansas. That's a really neat place. They had over 10,000 fans at the game, and they open up the gates for general admission seating out beyond the outfield walls like 3 hours before first pitch, and fans come racing in there with their folding chairs and their blankets to get the best seat in the house. And they love their baseball. They had a fall inter-squad scrimmage a week or so ago and had over 5,000 people show up to watch that. So that is one of the best places in the country would be Arkansas.
Yeah, I remember watching that on ESPN, and that place was just rocking when Nebraska was playing there. That was awesome.
It was one of the coolest broadcast games that I've ever called, was that the whole atmosphere and the intensity of the game, and the winner would move on to the super regionals. It was intense. It was really one of the funner broadcasts that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, it looked super, super fun. So, well, Greg, hey, so you do a lot with baseball, you do a lot with football. Sports is obviously a huge part of your story and your life, but outside of sports, what kind of brings you joy? You have a lot of passion about being with family, friends, activities.
Well, I've got 3 daughters, so they keep me pretty busy going to their activities. A couple of them have now are out. One's out of college, so she's kind of not doing as much of the dance and all those type of things, but all that. I love Marvel movies. I'm a big Marvel guy. So any, I know Black Panther's coming out here in a few weeks. I love those. So I do tend to watch some of that, but I love getting out. I do my own yard work. I love doing some of that. That kind of helps clear my mind a little bit. So a little bit of here, a little bit of there. I don't play much golf. I do like golf, but I don't get to play much golf. So, and usually if there's a ball game on, guys, I'll find my way to watching it. So last night, loved watching the baseball playoffs have been phenomenal. I think this year, watched Georgia Tech, Virginia college football on a Thursday night. So if there's a game on TV, I'm usually probably not too far away.
Who are your teams for the pros?
Well, I grew up in Kansas City, so I'm a glutton for punishment with the Royals. And
there you go.
My happy place is when I can flip on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yes. What about, do you like pro basketball or any college basketball?
I don't really watch a lot of NBA until the playoffs. I'll certainly get into the playoffs. And heck yeah, I love college basketball. Used to call college basketball at K-State. I do Fred Hoiberg's radio show and his TV show here. So hoping for a better year for the Huskers on the court this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully they can get it going. And I don't know, I feel like Hoiberg he could turn around. Like, kind of like football. We came close in some games, but we looked good at the end of the season. We beat Wisconsin at the end and a couple wins there. So yeah, hopefully we can do good on the basketball court as well.
We won the last 3 road games last year at Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin. And yeah, they kind of found their way. It was a little too late to bail the season out. But guys, I'll tell you this, he is one of the nicest men I've ever been around in any sports, is Fred Hoiberg. So I'm a huge fan, want him to do well. And I think this team will be a lot of fun to watch.
Nice.
You think there'll be some improvement this year with the team?
No doubt. He's brought in some experienced guys from winning programs like Sam Griesel from North Dakota State, who played his prep ball at Lincoln East, and then a kid from SMU named Emmanuel Bandumel, who I think everybody's going to enjoy watching him play. I don't think they have an NBA guy on the team, but that's okay. I think they'll play better together as a team, and so I'm encouraged that they'll be able to win a bunch of games this year.
Yeah, and going to PBA, it doesn't matter how Nebraska basketball has been. It's always an awesome environment. I know Wyatt and I have gone to games together. It doesn't matter who we're playing, how we're doing. It's always fun.
Yeah,
that's what makes Husker sports so fun, is our fans show up, and that's not like that everywhere else. And it doesn't matter if we're good or bad. They show up at the games, whether it's a volleyball match at the Devaney Center or baseball at Haymarket Park or basketball at PBA. That's what makes this pretty cool place, is that the fans are so involved in the teams, and regardless of wins or losses, they still come and show up.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So one closing thought. So Greg, through the years, what's one lesson that you've learned doing all this that has kind of just stuck with you and just kind of your mindset in the day, through the work, through the sports and all that?
It's not work. That's the thing, because I love it. It's like, I can't wait to come to do my job every day, because it's not work. I don't look at it as work. It's a blast to be able to do this, and an honor to be doing this for the Huskers, and kind of be the voice of this university is a pretty cool thing. And so I don't take that for granted. And I tell everybody in college, if I go talk to a college class, I said, find something that you enjoy doing and you won't feel like you're working. And whether, some people, that's sitting in a cubicle and adding up numbers all day. Maybe that's what their mind wants them to do, is be an accountant and add all that stuff up. If you really love what you do, it's not going to feel like work.
Are Huskers making a bowl game?
I think it'll be tough. We really needed to make hay in the first half of the year, letting that Northwestern game get away and Georgia Southern get away. I'm not saying it's impossible, because it's not. We need to win 3 of the last 5. I love our fight, but I think the odds are probably stacked against us to get to 6.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Greg, on the Be Unexpected podcast.
You guys, I totally enjoyed it. I'm big fans of both of yours.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that was a great interview with Greg Sharpe, the voice of Husker football and baseball. Pretty crazy to just hear all of his insights and everything he knows. not just about Husker football, but the Big Ten, baseball. And yeah, there's a lot of awesome stuff. But I loved hearing about how for the baseball, they are on the road from could be Thursday to Sunday. And sounds like he just really enjoys building relationships with the players, equipment managers, the coaches, the fans, the families. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. What I love was like he knew he wanted to do this ever since he was like 7 years old, watching games on TV, listening to them on the radio. Not a lot of people, some people get into this like maybe in college or after, but he was like, no, I knew I wanted to do this as a kid and just started all the way through high school and beyond. So I thought it was cool too. I just knew so much about the Big Ten overall and, just his love for football and baseball. So.
Yeah, didn't he say did his own like sports show when he was little, like recapping the stats and stuff?
Yeah, he did his own
That's pretty
stat
cool.
show. That's awesome. You know someone's dedicated, and when you're a kid and that's your first show you ever had. So
Yeah. No, it's really cool to get to talk with Greg Sharpe. So, well, thank you everyone for listening to the Be Unexpected podcast with Wyatt Spalding and Jake Burnside. If you'd like to be on the show or know someone who we should interview, please email us at beunexpected100@gmail.com and check out our YouTube channel, Life with Wyatt Spalding. See ya.
yeah.